Hi, in this talk today I'd like to discuss the path of becoming a pro woodworker or professional woodworker, and I'd hopefully inspire you to take the leap and to move from hobbyist to professional woodworker, become self-employed, run a self-directed business, relying on yourself. I'm Norman Perillo, a furniture designer and maker at Perillo Design and a woodworking educator, author at WoodSkills. To start with, I'll define the word professional. It's a little misnomer for people because when they hear the word professional, they automatically assume doctor, lawyer, somebody that studied for several years at university level. But in the context of a woodworking or furniture maker, a professional woodworker is the term for it is a person engaged in a specified activity as one's main paid occupation rather than a pastime or hobby. You're actually working at woodworking or furniture making as a profession. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a professional at it, especially early on. You develop that and you become a professional as you progress with the craft over the years and gain some expertise and experience. But you're automatically a professional if you're depending on woodworking or furniture making as a profession. I just wanted to get that out there. Part of being a professional woodworker is to embrace competitiveness, and I have a good story or anecdote about this in my early years, how it motivated me to create a much better product, and how I discovered that competition in woodworking and furniture making is actually a good thing. It actually forces you to improve your offerings, be it sculpture, wood turnings, furniture, which is what I create in my current role today. So I have some eye-opening advice from embracing competition, and I'll be sharing that very soon. Another facet or point about being a professional woodworker is to work with deadlines. Clients will demand a commission or order as soon as possible. This encourages you to develop efficient processes and workflow and develop new techniques and basically become more efficient as a woodworker to have a greater yield or output, be it small batches of furniture, wood turnings. So you have a limited time in a day and you need to improve on your output. This develops automatically when you're in business. You need to become more efficient. You also need to develop a professional mindset. Competitiveness is ideal to raise the quality of your product. If you're giving your work away to your friends and family, the drive to excel is not there. We've all experienced this early on. We tend to give our work away to friends and family and not market the work. Of course, they're accepting of your work, and there's very little critique or feedback because everybody's happy to get something for free. Only when you're in business is when you really start to understand the quality of your product and how you should improve on a product. You get immediate feedback when you're actually selling the product to somebody and they're paying money for something, a commission, a piece on spec, or wood turnings or sculpture. So you need to embrace that competitiveness is what I'm trying to say, and you only really get this through being in business. So I'm Norman Perillo, a pro woodworker, professional woodworker. Woodworking has been my passion for over 30 years. I'm as stoked about woodworking today as when I began in 1994. And this is very true, actually. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I always have constant stream of ideas that I like to work on, or new designs, furniture designs, new products, workshop enhancements, workflow enhancements. So from a hobbyist to a part-time woodworker to a full-time woodworker, I delved into several aspects of woodworking. Initially began as a box maker, and then delved into wood sculpture, and ultimately became a furniture maker, which is my current role, and I design and develop contemporary furniture. So the experience gained as a pro woodworker has been invaluable to me, and I hope to you too, if you take the leap and go on your own. I hope to inspire you to become a pro woodworker in this talk. So I currently build furniture on spec at Perillo Design and share my woodworking and furniture making knowledge through online courses, classes, books at WoodSkills, and some of my books are here. So you can see the paths in the chart. You can see the paths I followed over a 3-decade period. From small beginnings and a part-time business, I grew into other forms of woodworking, namely jewelry boxes, even cigar humidors in that period, wood art, wood sculpture, and finally a professional woodworker creating contemporary furniture. So with my background in both woodworking and business, I enjoy sharing my experience on the topic of the business of woodworking, or being a pro or becoming a professional woodworker, pro woodworker. So I'll try to use that shorter label, the pro woodworker, but what it means is professional woodworker. So going pro as a woodworker will bring satisfaction, fulfillment, and self-direction to your life. Working at something you are passionate about is very rewarding. I'll delve into that story, that anecdote that I like to share with people. Early on in when I began to create boxes because I was limited in space in my early workshop, and I talk about that at length in my earlier videos. I have a specific video on my box making journey. What happened is I began to create boxes, and I knew very little about joinery at the time, although I did study some cabinet making. Boxes were foreign to me. I began to scale my work down to boxes, and I thought I would market the boxes because I just created so many boxes. I need to do something with them. So I joined a small crafts guild, and they had craft shows, and I enlisted in a show, and I brought a good collection of my boxes along, and I set up a booth, and just across from me in one corner was another box maker. He had been a long time member of the same guild. So I noticed over a period of 2 or 3 days, people would walk around, they'd look at my boxes and look at his boxes and usually purchase his boxes. So I made very few sales, but he made quite a few sales. And I was intrigued by why people wouldn't purchase my product. So I went over and actually just talked to him briefly and complimented him on the quality of his box. And he said he would come over and when he had free time and have a look at my boxes, and he's curious. He's also just as curious about what I have. So he came over and we talked about it briefly. He had a look, and he noticed that the hardware I used, the hinges, weren't up to par, and the quality of the actual box wasn't quite there. So he was not very complimentary of my work, essentially. So I was taken aback by this, and I was so put off by the lack of compliments that I actually asked him for advice. And he said he gave me particular advice, and he asked me if I would, they have a critique night at the guild, and you could improve your boxes performing these steps, and then bring your box in a newer version of your box, and we can critique it. And he's actually one of the people on the panel that actually critiques. So I did that. I tried to improve the box. I brought it in. It was much better than that initial box, but it still had some flaws. Went back to the drawing board, recreated the box. Eventually it was very acceptable, and they were fairly impressed with what I had done. And then I continued to market those boxes and with a little more complexity, and I began to become successful. And this was at the cusp of the internet, so everything worked out, and I was able to market on the internet also. Short story, without going into delving into too much detail, the complexity of my boxes increased over a period of 1 to 2 to 3 years, and I began to offer very large, high-quality jewelry boxes, and I was marketing them throughout North America and internationally for a very good price. It was a very lucrative business for a number of years until I began to tire of it and switched to furniture making, and that's another story for another day. But that's the story, and that's how critical it is to embrace competitiveness. It improves you as a woodworker. At first, you can be shocked and dismayed by the fact that somebody else's product is so much better than yours, but you embrace this critique of your work, and then pushes you to create a much better product. And obviously, it worked for me, and I can't stress this enough in your work. So don't be dismayed by competition. Initially, there are people out there that have been doing this for much longer, as that other box maker I referred to. Embrace that and develop your skills to be able to compete with that person. That's the story. So becoming a pro woodworker will force you to learn other aspects of a business. You'll learn marketing, conversing with clients, acquiring clients, managing a business. If it doesn't work out, these same skills can be applied to future businesses and endeavors. you'll be able to apply this if the time wasn't right for you to have started a business or become a professional woodworker and you need to take a step back. You can always restart this, and the skills you've developed you can carry forward to your next business. So acquiring and completing a commission is a rewarding process. You challenge yourself to learn new techniques and develop new skills through a commission or new products. And as I've embraced this, I usually try to add an element or learn a new technique in every commission I accept or I take on. And this develops me as a woodworker and furniture maker. And it also challenges me, and I get some enjoyment out of the commission rather than just recreating the same piece over and over, something to keep in mind. So working at something you enjoy brings success and a rewarding career. A business experiences ups and downs, and businesses are typically cyclical. Woodworking is a year-round business, however, and only a poor economy will drag it down. I haven't seen any drop in sales or commissions over the years, aside from a recessionary period in the late 2000s, but that affected most businesses regardless. So you need to be prepared for that sort of thing, although woodworking, again, is a year-round business, so it's not a seasonal business. So if a career change is on your mind, take your woodworking skills and become a professional, turn pro woodworker. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reinvent yourself, and we've all heard about people reinventing themselves, and it's very common nowadays to reinvent yourself. I've done this 2 or 3 times in my life, and my ultimate reinvention was as a woodworker, furniture maker over a long period of time, and I'm very content with it because it embraces my creativity, and I'm able to create furniture, market the furniture, so I have to develop several skills just to conduct a furniture making business, and my other role is a woodworking educator. So going on your own as a professional woodworker is performed hundreds of times a week throughout North America. The folks I've talked to over my 3 decades of experience that turned pro and started a woodworking business never looked back. They're all content with what they've done, and the experience they've gained is very invaluable to them, just as it is to me, and they can apply it to other facets or other components of their life. So before we continue, I'd like to show you the type of work, my contemporary furniture I create today. I don't have enough time or room in this video to show you all the work, but these are scale models or maquettes of the type of work I create. The cabinets, these are some earlier scale cabinets. They're all 5th or 6th scale, if I'm not mistaken. This is 1/4 scale, and this is probably up to a 5th scale, and this is so these first 2 are not functional. They're just for a client to better visualize what the cabinet will look like on stand, and this is completely functional. This is one of my more recent ones. The drawers actually work, and they function as drawers. So I enjoy doing this also, and this actually is the best visualization. So I did this because I was going to launch a series of these cabinets with that unique stand that I developed. So it was worthwhile for me to create an exceptional scale model of it so I can show it. And it's for the same for this one. It's an earlier version of a popular cabinet of mine with contrasting woods, and the drawers also operate. So it's fun to actually create this, and I typically just use offcuts, and it takes me about a day to create each one. So I just thought I'd share that. So I turned pro about 15 years ago after working part-time at woodworking. So I began as a part-time woodworker, a box maker early on, and then eventually became full-time pro woodworker. So watching my former high-tech career drastically change over the years, it was time for me to move on and take the leap. I went through several stages of obsolescence in hardware and software, and I realized that it's very difficult to keep up with anything in high-tech. Everything's evolving constantly. I wanted a more static vocation. Began by studying cabinet making early on in the 1980s, and I was exposed to cabinet making early on. And through that cabinet making, I realized that woodworking really hasn't changed much in decades or even centuries, especially if you're working with hand tools, which I do today. So it was a complete 180 degrees from my former high-tech role, and that's what drew me to woodworking and eventually furniture making. And that's why I took the leap. And that's something to consider, because woodworking, unless you're full on into automation and CNC, you can actually create everything with using hand tools today. You can see a whole selection of hand tools behind me. You don't need all these tools, but everything I create today, as a large majority of it is performed with hand tools. So when you turn pro at woodworking, you see what you have created. At the end of the day, your output is tangible, and it's measured by quantity and quality of your work. You're able to actually see what you completed. For example, when I completed one of these scale models, I was very satisfied at the end of the day that I had completed this. I had something in my hand to show, unlike in my former career of software development, where just coding is essentially, so there's really nothing to show. And I have a creative streak in me, so I'm basically a maker, a creator, and I need to satisfy that urge to create. Some people don't have that. Some people, they're fairly well content with just developing code or software or other endeavors in life. So we've all heard the expression, time is money. And as a woodworking pro, you automatically develop techniques and workflow improvements to increase your productivity, because time is money. It's a good expression, actually, because when you're in business, you need to maximize your output, your yield, in a limited amount of time. So you develop all these efficient processes. Modify your workflow to increase the yield or increase your productivity. As a pro, you're motivated and encouraged to improve your woodworking skills and techniques to create higher quality work. So to successfully compete, a quality product needs an advantage over another competitor's or another woodworker's product. And we discussed that earlier. And that's what kept driving me to better to improve on my products, knowing that I've always looked at competitors' products and I wanted my product to be either at par to the better and the more successful competitors, or to improve on what they've done. And this is something you'll find yourself doing as a pro woodworker all the time. When you bid on something, or even a commission or a spec piece, you'll have to have something that's appealing to clients and something that's a little better than what they can get somewhere else. So with time, you take on more complex and larger scale orders and commissions, and it's a natural evolution of a woodworking business. And the complexity of work I've taken on has increased over time as I develop my skills and my techniques. And as I mentioned earlier, I like to introduce a new element into every commission and challenge myself, especially if I haven't done it before. And then I can add it to my repertoire of techniques and skills, and use that in the next commission, and add another technique and develop another skill with that commission. So if you think of it in different terms, the client's actually paying you to learn how to do something, as long as you do it well, of course, and you maintain the quality. So turning pro woodworker will provide you the freedom to make your own business decisions, set your own direction, decide and accept work you choose to take on. You become self-reliant. And deciding and accepting work you choose to take on is this. What I'm trying to say is that you determine the work you'd like to take on, the amount of the commissions, how large a commission, how many commissions over a period of a year, for example. So although initially overwhelming, learning multiple aspects of running a business will stabilize over time. Your focus will then shift to your product over time. So initially, you're guaranteed to be overwhelmed with everything about running a business, developing a business, acquiring clients, marketing your product, marketing yourself. And then eventually this settles down and your focus does shift to your actual product. Once you have a clientele, or your marketing has succeeded in acquiring clients. So if you get little to no satisfaction from your day job, investigate the idea of becoming a professional woodworker, pro woodworker. I experienced downsizing and loss of employment 3 times in my life. I bounced back every time and eventually became a pro woodworker, creating custom contemporary furniture, as I've just shown you. Downsizing is fairly common today. Loss of employment is even more common. This was 4 decades ago, when people had guaranteed jobs and unionized jobs, but that's sort of gone away. So we're at the mercy of employers and the industries that come and go. I realized this early on, and I decided to take develop my own path, become self-reliant, and decide for myself to become a professional woodworker. And although it was initially it was a little bit of a struggle financially, and was quite a drop in income, I eventually overcame that, and the income stabilized. Although it's never been at the level of my former career, the income of my former career, but I've also reduced my expenses because of it, and of course I've had to purchase a whole complement of tools, machines, and all the other expenses associated with the business. So it does work. The formula works, is what I'm saying. So the experience of becoming self-reliant and becoming a pro woodworker motivated me to earn my living enough through woodworking to rely on myself. Going pro and being self-sufficient is a life lesson you carry with you throughout your life. Like I said earlier, if you've gone into business for yourself as a professional woodworker and it doesn't work out, doesn't pan out, you can always return to your former career, attempt this again at a later date, but you'll have gained some skills in the process that you can apply. And you'll understand better what you need to learn to run your own business or to become a professional woodworker and be self-reliant and be self-employed. So the skills are invaluable to you. Guaranteed secure jobs are a thing of the past. I think at this point we're all aware of this. You can dictate your annual income by going pro. You decide how much work you want to take on. So a little more delving into what I was just saying. You can actually determine the size of commission, the amount of commissions you take on over a period of a year, and gauge the income you need. So if you're still learning, if you're still in the early stages of being a pro woodworker, you could work with fewer commissions initially, and then as you develop your workflow and your productivity improves, you can take on more commissions or more complex commissions, as long as the income's there and you're able to sustain yourself and your family. So as a professional woodworker, you will need to consider other aspects in your business. It is more than just woodworking. Other aspects include client interaction, accounting, inventory control, equipment and tool maintenance, purchasing, marketing, acquiring clients, advertising, and delivery of product, delivery of furniture. So this is necessary for your business to survive and thrive. You need to understand how to be able to do this and possibly get help at some point, or find a mentor that's already in business and learn from them. So becoming a pro woodworker is very rewarding. The key to being successful is having confidence in yourself. Being confident will move you forward. I've experienced the confidence, and when you, early on when you begin, you're not quite sure of your product, if it's going to be accepted in the marketplace, but once it is accepted and you're creating a quality product, your confidence will increase because of you're content with what you're creating, quality is there, and you're able to utilize all your skills and develop more skills. So that formula works also. Initially, you need to remove fear and insecurity of going pro. The faith in yourself and your capabilities will offset any setbacks. There will be setbacks in your business, in any business. Things don't go right, the commission didn't work out, you lost a lot of time, you sacrificed a lot of time, you lost a lot of time, you've lost all the materials that have gone into the commission, possibly. It didn't work out, customers not accepting the commission. So you learn from that experience. I've been there once or twice, and initially it's not a good feeling, but you just have to take it in stride and move on, go forward. 90 or 100% of the time, things will work out, and you'll have the odd situation where it doesn't work out. There's no getting around that. So you might experience doubt from people that surround you, doubt about your decision of going pro or becoming a professional woodworker. People will go on about how difficult it is to succeed at your own business, how cyclical it is, and they'll also talk about keeping it as a hobby. Because there's a widespread rumor or fiction going around that once you convert your hobby to a business, the enthusiasm disappears. This could not be further from the truth. In my case, I developed an even greater enthusiasm because I was able to challenge myself, create a better product, and actually survive from my business and market myself. So if we look at it in different terms, I'm actually at a job, but I'm self-employed. I'm my own employer. And the same for you. So once you're creating your own product, you're self-employed, self-direction, you have all sorts of freedom to embrace, but you will be successful. So my advice to you is that basically disregard this bad advice and go with your gut. If you feel the time is right, become the pro woodworker. Go forward, experience it. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back. Just make sure you've set some money aside to be able to cushion any disparities in income during the period that you're establishing yourself as a professional woodworker and being self-employed. So I did experience doubt at the beginning of my first woodworking business, and there's no getting around this. You will have doubts and trepidation about going into business for yourself. So I had many questions at the time, and every little step was an adventure of its own. So I saw this as a large adventure. It was exciting, and I learned so much along the way. All the aspects of running a business, marketing yourself, even starting the business, or the legal aspects of starting a business. The advice I'd like to give you is to develop a business plan. Find somebody that can help you with a business plan, or take a course on developing a business plan and follow the business plan. I emphasize this. A business plan is a roadmap for your woodworking business. A business plan will keep you from deviating to unproductive business directions. In other words, you drill down to the niche you'd like to develop products for, furniture for. And in my case, it's contemporary furniture, Scandinavian-based contemporary furniture, and then work within that niche. I know at the very beginning you're open to all sorts of work because you need the income, and you can do this for a while, but always keep in mind to eventually focus on your niche, because that's how you will be able to market yourself as an expert in that particular niche of creating a high quality product. And that's what the business plan does. It keeps you from deviating, and you just become a general woodworker, repairing furniture, creating birdhouses, cutting boards, charcuterie boards. So it's important to focus on what you really like, the niche you really like to target. So I knew early on I wanted to be a furniture maker, and that's where I strive to work towards. Although I did take on some unusual commissions or projects early on, just to be able to support myself with some income. So if you're unsure whether you should go pro, within 1 year of my first woodworking business, I had absolutely no regrets. Instead, I would have regretted not going pro. And and all the people that I've talked to, the woodworkers that have become professional woodworkers, they all echo the same sentiment, that becoming a professional woodworker has really drastically improved their lives as woodworkers, and they never look back. They look forward, and a lot of them have gone on to create larger businesses. I've scaled my business down to a one-man operation, and that's how I preferred, but I could have easily scaled it up and employed people early on in my box making days that I've talked about in my earlier videos on my box making journey. So I'd like to share some takeaways from this talk on going pro or becoming a professional woodworker. The first one is not to get overwhelmed. Pace yourself and plan the hours in your day. Mix up woodworking tasks over different days to maintain the enthusiasm. If you're creating furniture, you could create certain components one day, create different components the next day. Just introduce variety into your woodworking, and when I created small batches of furniture, I typically do this. I create components one day, focus on one aspect of the small batch, and then do something different on the next day. And this also makes you more efficient, because you're able to set up your tools, your workshop for that specific task on that day without having to change everything up. And I do talk about a workflow in a different video, and how I've embraced creating furniture in small batches for reasons of efficiency. So becoming a pro involves multiple tasks. Explore the methods of simplifying and streamlining tasks more. Once you've streamlined tasks and simplified tasks, you're more likely to complete the tasks. This formula has worked for me over the years. I always find methods to make my workflow more efficient. I'm always modifying my workshop, introducing things. I've introduced a rolling cart at one point, and that's helped me a lot, and moving components around to different workstations or different workbenches, just to be able to create the components for small batches more efficiently, improve on productivity, explore efficiencies, streamline products, drill down to the niche that you're really like to focus in on, refine the niche, is another word. Select products and furniture to sustain your business. Don't select products and furniture that you're not content making, but try to find a happy medium of a product you're content making, and it's also very marketable, it's popular. This will be the best compromise. So you're happy and clients are happy, and there's a good market for your furniture or a wood product or whatever you create. So develop a management system and processes that work for you. Again, the efficiency, develop efficiency, work on your workflow and your productivity, and lay out your machines and your workbenches and your tools to maximize efficiency. I've done this periodically over the years, and I continue to do this. I've made some changes. Even what you see behind me is, I've only recently set that all up just to have tools that I'm handy when I'm working at this particular workstation. I have multiple workstations here. Next is to not neglect a healthy work-life balance. When you're self-employed, you tend to want to put in the extra hours every day. Try to limit your hours to maybe 8 to 10 hours a day. It's very easy to work 12 hours a day because you're self-employed. You're enjoying your work so much and you want to maximize your output for every day. But in doing that, you're actually sacrificing the healthy work-life balance. You're not spending time with your family or addressing other interests of yours. So it's important to limit the time to a reasonable time, 8 to 10 hours a day at your business, and then drop it and then start the next day. This will probably make you happier and then maintain the enthusiasm of your business. Also reduce stress in the business. Allocate time for design and marketing, very critical to be able to design new products, and I continually do that in my business. I teach a course on furniture design, and I'm forever designing new furniture, new variations on existing designs of my furniture. So it's not necessary to complete everything in one day. Shift your tasks around and maximize your time. I talked about that earlier. Try to, when you're working with small batches, try to work on a few components one day and then shift to another set of components the next day, and that creates variety in your work and maintains the enthusiasm. So as a professional woodworker, creativity will drive your product marketing, and in turn, successful marketing will drive your creativity. It's a feedback loop. I've coined this expression, it's a feedback loop. Because what it does is once you invoke your creativity and design products, and you're able to market them and sell them, and you're successful at selling them, this in turn will, it's a successful marketing will in turn drive your creativity to continue to design and create newer products, new variations of your existing products or brand new products. So it's a continuum. That's what I've done over the years. I have a lot of unique designs to my own work, and I've not only been a furniture maker, I also delved into tool making at one point, and I was actually making hand planes, wooden hand planes at another point, early on, 25 years ago, 23 or 24 years ago. Before that, a box maker for a period of 5 years or so. All this to keep in mind. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk on becoming a pro woodworker, becoming a professional woodworker, and please subscribe to my channel, and I will continue to provide other videos on life as a professional woodworker, developing woodworking skills, developing woodworking techniques, workflow, improving your workflow, and I have quite a selection of videos already on some of these subjects or most of these subjects, so please subscribe, and don't forget to go to my woodskills.com site, and I have a good selection of books. This is my first book on from high-tech to low-tech, and a book on actually running a woodworking business. To start your own woodworking business. It's also offered as an online course. So again, thank you for watching, and enjoy your possible career path as a professional woodworker.